My name is Jermaine Mello and we are the Group 1. So our topic is all about historical foundation of education. So the intended learning outcomes at the end of this chapter, you should be able to first state the relationship with society and schools. Second, prove that schools transmit cultural values by stating facts from education, history in the world, and so on. Three, explain the meaning of socialization and function of schools. So everyone, can you please read the quote of John Dewey?
When a school introduces and trains each child of society into membership within such a little community, saturating him with the spirit of service and providing him with the instruments of effective self-direction, we shall have the deepest and best guarantee of a learner society, which is worthy, lovely, and harmonious.
So, based on John Dewey's quote, I have here some questions. Number one, what is the function of schools according to John Dewey's statement? Anyone? Yes, very good. So according to Dewey, the function of a school is to act as a miniature community. It means to prepare children for life in the broader world. Its job isn't just to pump students with facts, but to socialize, instill values. It means thinking of others, not just himself, and to empower. So number two, who creates schools? Anyone? Yes, Jimena. Very good. The society creates the schools. So society creates schools as an investment in its own future. So number three, who wants to answer? Yes, Flores. Yes. Dewey sees the relationship as a symbiotic foundational. It means that the school is the seed and the society is the forest. For example, in school, the teacher taught us the values and who we want to become. For example, me, I want to be the doctor. I want to be a doctor someday. So the society, ano siya maka-benefit po sa ato someday sa doctor because without doctor, kung na sakit, dili ta tambalan. Yes, education or school is an institution created by society. Education is a function of society and as such arises from the nature and character of society itself. Society seeks to preserve itself and to do this it maintains its functions and institutions, one of which is education to usher its survival, stability, and convenience. So, as what I've said, the survival, if a society doesn't teach its youth how to sustain themselves economically or physically, the society dies out. And the stability or the stability, by teaching shared rules and history, schools prevent chaos. Stability, without the shared rules or history or our culture, there might be some riot or chaos. Next is the convenience. So it's much easier for society to function when its members have been standardized with a common language and basic skills. For example, Tagalog ko niya, ni-eskwela ko sa mga Visayas, like let's say sa San Carlos, ang Bisaya man, well-known as Bisaya people na sila din ha. At sa Tagalog, dili convenient for me ang maskwela din ha, kay ang language na kita ginatawag ng language barrier. So it's much better if ganun ka maskwela sa Manila. As John Dewey claims, it is the school that introduces and trains each child of society into membership within such a little community. As I have said before, that the school teaches us to become what we like. Just for example, ako ganihan na ako mag-doktor. So with that, I can help in the community or sa akong community and saturating him with spirit of service and providing him with instruments of effective self-direction. When schools succeed to do this, in the words of Dewey, we shall have the deepest and best guarantee for a larger society which is worthy of harmonious and lovely. So next this is called the socialization process. Socialization is the process of learning the roles, statuses, and values necessary for participation in social institutions. Just like what I said before, of what you want to become. Next is the socialization. Abang, can you please read?
Socialization is a lifelong process. It occurs primarily during early childhood, but as we progress From infancy to old age, we shed old rules and adopt new ones rule learning that prepares us for future roles in term anticipatory socialization. Because of anticipatory socialization, most of us are more or less prepared for our future roles like spouse, parent, professional teacher.
Okay, as you can see, there are anticipatory socialization. It means that it is the process where the school acts as a social laboratory to prepare children for their future roles in democracy. So, it says here that to prepare children for their future roles in a democracy. So, the school is preparing the children to what she wants to become. She wants to be a parent, a teacher, a professional. Next. So the family is the most important agent of socialization. Psychology tells us that the self-concept formed during childhood has lasting consequences. Besides the parents, religion, social roles, and self-concept which in turn to influence the expectations that others have for the child. So here it states that the family is the most important agent of socialization. Yes, it is because the family is mo na siya ato ang first nga encounter as a kuan. As bata pa ng padako, that is the most important, which is ang the family. And here it's also important the religion and our atuang social rules. The school is also an important agent of socialization. It is an institution charged with society to impact specific knowledge and skills necessary for functioning in society. They are also charged with the task of transmitting society's cultural values. The next part of this chapter is devoted to how schools, formal or informal, did their task as agents of socialization and different periods of history. So here, it means that the school is very important kay mauni siya ang nahatag na to of knowledge kung unsa atong ganahan puhon o unsa atong mga ganahan. Like for example, ganiha again, naganahan mo doctor, so we can be a doctor if we go to school. If Rika wants to be a teacher, she can go to school and learn so that she can become a teacher herself. So next, you have the education in primitive society. So according to Brinkerhoff, 1989, he explains or she explains that in primitive societies, pre-literate persons face the problem of survival and environment that pitted them against natural forces and wild animals. To survive, human beings needed food, shelter, warmth, and clothing. To transform a hostile environment into one that is life-sustaining humankind, develop and skills that eventually became a cultural pattern. So, cultural pattern is the common structure in religious practices. So next, we have these life skills included the soup or instrument making. Number 2 is to have adherence to the moral behavior code of in life. Last one is the language. So early humankind found security in a group life based on kinship and tribal patterns. Life in the human group was educational, so children observed and learned from the elders and as they were deliberately taught by their parents and elders. For these cultural patterns to continue, early humankind found security in a group life based on kinship and tribal patterns. Life in the human group was educational, so children observed and learned from the elders as they were deliberately taught by their parents and elders. For these cultural patterns to continue, the adults had to teach these skills and values to the children. So, atong unang panahon, natin ginatawag atong unang panahon, here in the Philippines, we have native people. Ang ilang daily life kay muhan sila o nangitag shelter. So, ang kanak ng mga culture, ginapasa nila sa ilang children from generation to generation. Hanggang karon na lang, we are living in the 21st century era na lahi na doon isa sa una. Next is the abstract thinkers. Human beings could create, use, and manipulate symbols. They could communicate with one another through gestures, sounds, and words. So, ang abstract thinkers daw, na mga tao, they can communicate daw just using symbols, sounds, gestures, and words. These symbols were expressed in signs, pictographs, letters. The creation and introduction of oral written language made of a great lift on literacy, which in turn had tremendous educational consequences, which citizens of a civilized society like netizen in the 21st century now enjoy. So, the last slide of my topic, the key periods in educational history. Below are the key periods in education history from 7000 BC to AD 1600. Study the table thoroughly. The notes should make you see that the education and school are a function of society, and schools reflect the nature and the character of the society itself. What society considers important is what education focuses into the preserved society. So to discuss this further, my group mates will discuss that. And that's all for my report. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Marshall P. Villa-Frances, a member of the Group 1 reporting. So my subtopic is all about the key periods in educational history from 1000 BC to AD 1600, or the historical group of period. So this note will make you see that education and schools are the functions of society, and that schools reflect the nature and characteristics of society itself. What society considers important is that the school preserve its society. So we have here the historical group or period. First period is we have the primitive societies from 7000 before Christ to 5000 before Christ. First, their educational goal was to teach group survival skills to cultivate group cohesiveness. So they were taught by their teachers before how unsay the mga survival skills, and also how they will going to unite together. Their curriculum was the practical skills of hunting, fishing, food gatherings, stories, myths, songs, poems, and dances. So their agents naman, or their teachers before, was their parents, tribal elders, and priests. For the influences of the Western education was emphasizes on the role of informal education and transmission of skills and values. So meaning ang education for them was informal, transmitted or passed through into daily life, so that they were taught to have survival skills and values. Next period is we have the Greek from 1600 BC to 300 BC to cultivate civic welfare and identity with city-state. So now I do have a group during the ancient Greek. We have the Athenian or the Athens and the Spartan or the Sparta. So ang ilang curriculum sa Sparta ay sa Athenian. Their educational curriculum was to develop a well-rounded person. Meaning mas more focus sila sa educational development, like The influences of the Western education was emphasis on ability to use education for practical administrative skills. Meaning, Anna, mas more on in education for them is magamit siya into government, laws, and administration. Mas ma-develop ang ilang government system. Next period is we have the Arabic. From AD 700 to AD 1350. Their educational goal was to cultivate religious commitment to Islamic beliefs. So knowing that Islamic rose up before, they were important. The important belief to them was to have a religious commitment when it comes to Islam beliefs. Their curriculum naman was the reading, writing, mathematics, religious literature, scientific studies. Their teachers naman or their agents was the mosques and court schools. So meaning nga sa mosques is mga nasa temple. So the ano naman nila is the influences of the Western education was the Arabic numerals and computation. So mas mag-look up sila sa student na dagang contribution when it comes to mathematics and science and also sa Arabic numerals. Next period is the medieval AD 500 to AD 1400. Their educational goal was to develop a religious commitment, knowledge, and ritual. So same as the ancient Arabic, that they were also committed when it comes to religious beliefs. So mas focus sila on developing their knowledge about the religious beliefs. Their curriculum was reading, writing, arithmetic, liberal arts, philosophy, theology, crafts, military tactics, and chivalry. When we say chivalry, is mga siya mga codes nila sa medieval, during medieval period. Their agent or their teachers before was the parish, chanty and cathedral schools, universities, apprenticeship, and knighthood. So when we say knighthood, is muna sila nagtudlo and what are the military skills. The influences of the Western education was establishing the structure, content, and organization of the university as a major institution of higher education. So during a period that developed nila ang universities, which is nag-organize into higher education. Next period is we have the Renaissance from AD 1350 to AD 1500. Their educational goal was to cultivate a humanist who was expert in the classic or Greek Latin. So during a period na po, more on nag-focus sila on cultivating the classical humanist educator into a classical knowledge. Their curriculum was the Latin, Greek, classical literature, poetry, and art. Their agents naman are the classical humanist educators and schools such as Lycée, Gymnasium, Latin Grammar School. So more on ilahang mga curriculum before was more on literature or literacy. And their influences of Western education was the emphasis on literacy, knowledge, excellence, and style as an expressed and classical literature. Last period is we have the Reformation AD 1500 to AD 1600. Their educational goal was to cultivate a sense of commitment to a particular religious domination. Same as Arabic and the medieval, they were also committed to develop their religious denomination. And also their curriculum was reading, writing, arithmetic, catechism, religious concepts, and rituals. Their agents were the vernaculary students for the elementary schools for the masses and classical schools for the upper classes. When we say vernacular elementary schools, is muna siya mga nagtudlo ilang mother tongue, ilang mga subjects, while the classical schools for the upper classes only, which is nagtulo siya ang mga poetry, philosophical, art, or mga literature. Their influences of Western education was the commitment to universal education to provide literacy on the masses. Let's start with the primitive societies. So this period, the survival against natural forces were taught and were seen for them to have to be educated when it comes to survival skills and values. When it comes to Greek, sa atin naman is their developed focusing. Education is more focused. What mattered most is that well-rounded educational developmental system of every individual. While sa Spartan is development of soldiers and military leaders. For the Roman is to prepare themselves to cultivate. Schools are cultivate responsibility and development of the military skills and administrative as the synthesis of their Roman Empire. For the Arabic naman, an Arabic period where Islam rose up, the most concern of them was to commitment into a religious of the Islamic beliefs. For the medieval, as well as pareho sila sa Arabic, where they more focused on the their religious beliefs, and they were taught that education for all, so that they could read the Bible themselves. For the Renaissance period, where the humanists are taught to have classical knowledge when it comes to literacy, philosophical, art, literature, and art. And for the last one was the Reformation, where they were promoting a regional beliefs and discipline to students. So as we end this, the philosophical history of education that reflects the nature and characters of different periods in Philippine history, let us remember this sociological concept, which is education in schools are the functions of society, and the schools reflect the nature and characters of society itself, and what matters or what the society considers important what is the school teaches us. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. I am Shimei Castro, and for my part, I'll be discussing about the key periods in the Philippines educational history, covering from pre-colonial period to post-colonial period. Starting with the pre-colonial period, education was informal, unstructured, and decentralized. So back then, we don't have any schools, we don't have classrooms, and mostly we don't have grading system. So in this period, education is primarily vocational training rather than academics. The best example for this is when fathers taught their son how to hunt for food, how to gather food, while the mothers taught their daughters how to do household chores. And the teachers back then were the babaylan and the katalunan. They were the ones who passed down the tribe's history, their traditions, and their practices. And then the Spaniards came. So education became formal and religion-oriented. They taught Christian doctrines, prayers, and sacred songs. And then in 1863, they passed down the educational decree, which finally created the final system from elementary to college. And then they also made school compulsory for kids aged 7 to 12. However, only the wealthy people, or what they call the ilustrados,
got the high level of education, while the rest, they focused on basic religious practices.
Then the Americans came. They changed the goal from being religion-oriented to training for democracy. So training was initially done by the U.S. Army, the chaplains, and the officers. So they believed that we need to learn how to govern ourselves. And then in August 23, 1901, the Thomasites arrived. So these were the American teachers who professionalized teaching. They also made the English as the medium of instruction. And then they established the three-level system consisting elementary, high school, and then universities. This includes the founding of the University of the Philippines that is founded in 1908. Let's proceed to the Commonwealth period. So in this period, we shifted to nationalism. We focus more on our identity. We focus more on our Filipino heroes. So ex-President Manuel L. Quezon signed the Executive Order number 134, making Tagalog as the national language. And also they established the Education Act of 1940. So this act reduced the 7-year elementary course to 6 years. And then it also fixed the education entrance age at 7 years old. And it also mandated national support for elementary education. Also established compulsory attendance for children enrolled in grade 1. This act also introduced the double single session. So this means one teacher handle one whole class in the morning and then a different class in the afternoon. The Japanese arrived. The Japanese, they wanted to erase the Western influence, the American influence. So they pushed their own language, the Japanese language, and then they emphasized the love of labor. The Japanese also wanted the Filipinos to be Orientals. This means they wanted us to start embracing our Asian roots. Lastly, we have the post-colonial Philippines. So we have established a lot of Republic Acts. So here we have under the teacher professionalism, the Republic Act 1079 made the civil service eligibility of teachers permanent. Next one is the Republic Act 4670, passed into law as the Magna Carta for teachers. So these Republic Acts protected the teachers from, for example, being fired for no reason. And these Republic Acts also ensured the benefits of teachers. And then let's proceed to the national symbols. The Republic Act of 1265 made the daily flag ceremony and the singing of the national anthem compulsory in all schools. So if you were ever wondering why most of the schools here in the Philippines have mandatory flag ceremony every morning, it is because of this Republic Act. So in this period, they also mandated that the life or works and writings of the Rizal, especially the Olimitang Trade and the Estuarismo, be included in all levels of the curriculum. That is all for my part.
Good day everyone, my name is Janisli Hermena and I am the last reporter. So in my part, I'm going to report about the history of the Philippine education system. So we have other development. First is integration values in all learning areas. So from the word integration, it is connecting to other subjects. For example, you are a math teacher, then your lesson is addition. So for example, you have one flower and then and by that, you integrate different subjects. So, the second one is emphasize on mastery on learning. So, dapat master sa usa ka bata kada ka lesson. For example, you are a teacher. Then, you will teach lesson 1. And after you finish that, you do oral recitation to test the students' understanding and learnings what we have learned. Or you gonna test the students' knowledge. And then also we have here YDP and CAP. So YDP, it is a youth department training. It is Girl Scout or Boy Scout. It is elementary and high school, which is they train to have real-world situation. And then for CAT, which is Citizen Administration Training, is the best example for this is ROTC, which they put themselves in a real-world situation wherein they can act and do, and they can learn by their experience. So we have here media instruction, bilingual educational policy, mandates the use of English and Filipino separately as a media instruction in school. So as you observe, we have science language, and our teacher use English for that subject. And then, as you observe naman sa Araling Panlipunan, we have Filipino language used in that subject. So, Filipino and English language used in different subjects. So, Educational Act of 1982 creates the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports. It is establishing a confidence and information system. We have professional board examination for teacher in the last years, and they replace this into that, which is licensure examination to meet the modern standards of education. That's why they enhance this, but this is the same, but they upgrade and enhance this examination. So we have trifocalization of education system mandates to basic education, which cover elementary and secondary non-formal educational base, TESDA, and now we have ministry and the post-secondary middle level manpower training and development in Republic Act 7798. So in this, we have 3 agencies we have DepEd. DepEd have K-12, and then TESDA is a vocational courses, and then for CHED have higher college education. So in CHED is responsible for educational and Republic Act and 7722 Education Act in 1994. So in this Republic Act is principal is the leader who can lead his school teacher for a better education for their community and society. NCEE, National College Entrance Examination, introduced Executive Order number 117. So, ang nag-introduce aning entrance examination is President Corazon C. Aquino, renamed the Ministry of Education and Culture Sports in 1987. So, Corazon Aquino, siya ang nag-establish, that's why we have entrance examination examination. So in our grade 12, we need to take entrance examination for our first year college to enter to that school. And the grade ana is si President Corazon C. Aquino. And then in August 2001, Republic Act 9155, other view hold the Government of Basic Education Act was passed, transformed in the name of the Department of Education, Culture and Sports, or DESC, to the Department of Education and School Relation Office, Division Offices, Distinct Office and School, and Republic Act of 9155 provide a framework of overall. So in this Republic Act, it is analyze all educational framework. That's why this educational have a better education, because they upgrade by this Republic Act, which is 9155. So we have secondary curriculum and NCEC. So in Republic Act of 10157 in January 20, 2021, we have kindergarten as instructionalizing the kindergarten education into basic educational system. So in this Republic Act, kindergarten is the first step for students to have a basic educational system at the age of 5 to 6 years old. And K-12 program, Republic Act 10533, and on May 15, 2013, the K-12 program covers kindergarten and 12 years of basic education, which we have in our elementary, we have 6 years, and then in our high school, junior high school, we have 6 years, and then 2 years of senior high school. The very goal of educational is different historical period in the Philippines. So in every period, we have different educational system. What was considered important in each historical period to the country was also the focus or directions of educational of Philippines. So first we have pre-colonial period, which students were given vocational training but lesser academic for them to be a good father and mother. So in pre-colonial period, ang gitudlo nila sa ilaha, which is to be a good mother and father. You teach them how to be responsible like that. And then in Spanish period in school, focus on religious formation to help them live the Christian faith. So as we all know, Spanish colonized us in 333 years. That's why the Spanish teach Filipino to be religious. So now we have American regime education to the Filipino to become good citizen for a democratic country, while the Spanish regime put love and labor. So ang Spanish teach us to be more powerful and to solve problems same as before. Second, realistic effort to reform education begins with present condition, which are product of our part. By using our past, we can shape the future. So from digging our history of education, we can learn and we can use the past problem to enhance and how can we improve that same problem and to solve that. Lastly, the study of education past provides a perspective that explains that illumination are present activities as a teacher. So, digging history of education, it serves as a map to us because let's think about, for example, you are a first timer going to that place and then you don't know what place is that and as nakadapit ana. But if kung kabila na kanianhan na mga place, nakafamiliar na ka ng mga place, and nakakuha na kag mga strategies kung sa una nimo pag-anan na mga place, makabalik ka and then it is easier to you. In history of education provide us nowadays strategies and method how to improve education. So that's all our report. Thank you for